And the good thing about Tokyo, it's not like London. You're not going to wander into like a dodgy neighbourhood.
No.
And things are going to go wrong. Like the whole of Tokyo's safe. So.
You might eat a bad eel. That's the worst that's going to happen.
God.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast. Probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host, Chris Broad, and we're joined as always by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. Pete Donaldson himself. Pete, how the devil are you doing?
I'm good, Chris. I do hope everyone is keeping well, whether you're listening for the first time or listening for the 50th time. There's a lot of podcasts. I went back and did like an archive episode, which you've just heard on the MP3-based audio podcast feed. If you subscribe via, I don't know how people subscribe to podcasts now. It's iTunes and Spotify and stuff like that. Where you can listen over there if you fancy it. And you had a little extra bonus sort of archive episode on Monday. And, yeah, I mean, it has to be said, we've got a lot of shows and we've talked about a lot of stuff. And yet, when I see your little face on my computer, I still get that lovely, exciting little sort of heart flutter that I call it a Chris Broad palpitation that we're starting a new show together. a new record together. But the palpitations may be Chris Broad related, or they may very well be Hello Monster Energy Drink. Yeah, Monster Energy Drink, sugar free. Because I've been up since 4 o'clock because it's now 5:45 in the morning. But I've been up since 4 o'clock because I heard some kerfuffle in my garden.
Burglars?
And Sarah isn't here tonight. She's out. So I am solo home alone. And so I sort of got up because I could hear sort of, banging around in the garden next door. And so I was like, right, I'm going to protect Stu's property by going downstairs, opening the back door and coughing. That's all I did.
The ultimate
That's
deterrent.
all I did. And then I went back to bed just so any would-be burglars, property fiddlers would just run away because they'd sort of know that I was up and about, and I knew that I could hear them sort of touching people's property. It could very well have been foxes. It was probably just foxes, to be honest. But
you imagine like burglars about to come in, and then they hear you cough, and they're like, "Oh, we can't go in that house. He's clearly ill. We don't want to get sick. We want to burgle a house. We don't want to get sick in the process. Gosh, dear, dear."
Yeah, I'm not a brave man, Chris, but I can cough. Let me tell you, I can cough.
You can cough them to death.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing people do in the mountains of Japan. They like ring a bell to notify the bear that they're coming. You get to cough through the streets of Essex to keep the people away. Oh man!
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm glad you survived what was obviously some foxes dicking about in the garden. Yeah.
The thing I think about every time is though that I do have a samurai sword. And
oh my God.
I don't know whether waving that around at a burglar, whether that would go well for me or well for the burglar or well for anyone. Because I think as soon as I get the sword out, it's going in my own neck, innit, really? It's just, for somehow, that sword is going to end up in my own neck. But every time there's a kerfuffle, or a potential burglar, or someone on Facebook writing, "There's somebody knocking on my back door." I just always sort of think I'm gonna get that sword out and start swinging it around with
like an X-rated version of Home Alone. You just decapitating people in your garden. Imagine though, like I'm a burglar. I see a well-to-do looking man from North England. I follow him. I think, I'll rob this house. It comes to 3 o'clock in the morning. I get in the garden, and then the back door swings open. It's just you holding a samurai sword, going, Dozo. Hajimemashou. Let's begin.
Like the heartbeat of the music that you know that's going to kick in. No, what's going to happen is it's me at the door, cigarette in hand, samurai sword in the other. The cough indicates the start of a battle. Come on then.
Coughs all over the sword. He gives everyone Ebola virus. It's good.
Yeah.
This is the anime series the world needs. It's the anime that's going to be on Netflix soon. White man with a sword in Essex.
I've just sort of not slept very well the last couple of days because I did go to a Japanese restaurant on Saturday and they make some nice takoyaki. They make some lovely takoyaki.
No.
They make some lovely unagi eel sort of
You
sort
can't
of teriyaki,
get takoyaki in the UK. You're lying.
teriyaki eel dishes, and it wasn't even that the food was dodgy. I just ate so much that I absolutely destroyed myself the next day, and I was just like rolling around on the floor. And when you're solo parenting, Kids don't care about tummy aches. Kids don't care about daddy having cramps. Kids want to run around and frolic and watch Stickman and read books and throw things at daddy. But no, I've eaten too much eel, darling. Can you just be quiet?
Can't go wrong with a bit of eel. There was some eel. There was an eel restaurant in Yokohama that a lot of people got sick at last year, if I recall. And then I went to an eel restaurant like the next day, and I was like, should I be eating this unagi? It turns out most unagi in Japan is now imported from China, and it's like battery farmed. It's like fish farming, right? It's just like a big
Always
pool of eels. So it's kind of put me off the cuisine a little bit. Now I know it's like mass farmed. Like
well, the way that you sort of have an idea about eel, you think about electric eels and those eels that when they panic they leave a horrible sort of slime on your hands. But in reality, when you actually taste eel, it just tastes like a mackerel or a sardine. I think it's got the same texture in many ways.
It's the sauce that makes it work, right? It's got that like sweet sticky soy sauce that makes it very, very good. I'd want some now. All this chat about eels is getting me hungry. I haven't had breakfast yet. I haven't had lunch, rather. We got a story this week, though, from David, from Scotland, no less. And he begins, Ahoy, Pete and Chris. My wife and I are currently on our second trip to Japan. We recently went to Ishinomaki to catch a ferry to Cat Island. We had an hour or so to kill, so we decided to get a coffee, finding a place called Cafe Stone Wrap down on the waterfront. Cafe Stone Wrap. I haven't been to Ishinomaki since I went with you, actually. I forget Cat Island is a thing. I recently heard they neutered the cats, though, and the fun is very much over for Cat Island. Anyway, immediately upon opening the door at Cafe Stone Wrap, we were greeted with a TV crew and 2 cameras pointing in our direction. Feeling like deer in headlights, we quickly apologised and started to back up, but were beckoned inside. As we were directed to our seats and our orders taken, I was then given directions on how to drink my coffee and not to look at the camera. Don't look, don't look, don't you dare look. Knowing how amped up Japanese TV can be, I tried my hardest to look as if I was having the best coffee of my life ever. To be fair, it was pretty good coffee. Whilst this bizarre experience was taking place, my wife asked the presumed director what on earth was going on, and it turns out we had inadvertently walked into the filming of a local tourism programme for Ishinomaki. As the filming was finishing up, we received a nice painting of a bunch of cats and a free croissant for our participation from the cafe president. We're now absolutely terrified to turn on the TV in case we turn up randomly on Japanese TV. Chris, I know you've ended up on Japanese TV a few times, but have either of you been unexpectedly corralled into appearing on camera in your many times in Japan? Thanks, guys. All the best. Keep up the good work. Dave from Scotland. Or David from Scotland. So, that sounded rather awkward. I mean, I've been on TV enough times to know to stay the hell away from Japanese TV cameras. Yeah. It's the last thing you want to do. You've never suffered the trauma of going on Japanese TV, though.
A camera crew once accosted me and the television presenter Alex Zane in Super Potato, where they asked why I was in Japan and why I was in Japan and stuff.
What are you buying?
It was very funny watching Alex, who's a man who's been on telly quite a lot. Just hide behind a row of SNES games because he's just a bit scared, a bit jet lagged, a bit. I think I said before I had a bag full of costumes for our Halloween setup, and when the woman asked me why I'd bought a adult male-sized Minnie Mouse costume, I said sexy. I couldn't think of what to say, and I said sexy. But I mean, and
they called the police.
Being asked to be a participant or participant, you might say, because they got a free bit of pastry. I mean, that's like, do you sort of think that this might be like a not necessarily an Ishinomaki sort of tourist board thing? It might be a pro-cat sort of political group filming for cats. Do you like cats? We're good, aren't we? And the director takes his mask off and it's a cat. Oh, my God.
I'm still traumatised with my time going to Ishinomaki. Because we went there for the goddamn cat documentary, naturally. And we got off the little boat and we wandered round. My first time on TV in Japan was for an American show called The Travel Show. And in that, they made me go to Sendai. This is when I was working as a teacher. I took like 2 days off work to go all the way to Sendai. And I went to a cat cafe. and just like rolled around on the floor with some cats. And then the next day we went to Cat Island and filmed it, and we couldn't like find any cats, and they got me like standing in front of this shrine in the rain, trying to make me sound really profound. They wanted like some sort of narrative out of this, like, and they wanted me to be like, kind of standing there and sort of talk about how it's a miracle, it's a beautiful thing, humans and cats living side by side. And I remember the TV producer was like, "Tell us how you feel. Tell us this whole situation, how you feel about it." I'm like, it's just so profound, cats and humans. And they're like, "No, we need a bit more, more profundity." And I was like,
it's just like freestyling this stuff. Like,
I was just standing in front of this fucking shrine like a twat, going like, "Oh, it's amazing. There's cats and they catch the rats. It's how fishermen can fish." But I just made up all this nonsense. In the end, the entire island got cut from the TV show. Some editors in Seattle were where the TV show was from. They clearly just thought, "Oh, fuck this. There's nothing here." They left the cafe in me.
It's just like write some stuff. I was down in Zimbabwe
last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, I popped down to Zimbabwe, sorted that out. No, I was in I think it was Harare, but I was like on the outskirts and stuff, where basically like the top of the hill is where all the posh people live. In the parentheses of what a posh house is in that kind of part of the world, and then at the bottom is just these kind of like settlements, informal settlements, basically. And it was a charity thing for my radio station, and we did like a couple of different ones. One in Kenya, one in one place had too much water, one place had not enough, and it was quite an interesting little kind of juxtaposition. But I'm sat on a sewer pipe in Harare. I'm not jet lagged, but I'm absolutely exhausted 'cause I didn't sleep. And I'm just, and they just basically just point a camera at me and they go, "Talk about what you've seen." I'm like, "Oh God," I mean, but all I could think in my head, the only thing I could think in my head was I'd just been talking to a little boy who had a gerbil or what do you call those little fellas from Peru? The big, slightly larger sort of hamster sort of things. Guinea pigs. Guinea pigs. And I'm only saying from Peru because I think they eat them in Peru.
Paddington the bear.
Yeah. A little guinea pig in his hand, and I was like, is that your pet? And he goes, "Nope." I was like, "Oh, right, okay." And all I could think was going, all I can see is a kid eating a guinea pig. I can't think of anything else. And I'm sat on a sewer pipe in Harare. It's just not good. Give me a script and I'll fucking read it, man.
Bloody hell. Yeah, I mean, TV, it's always so staged, isn't it? They always want a certain story out of you rather than something that feels organic a lot of the time.
I think reality TV sort of did that, didn't it? The whole sort of Love Island thing. Maybe I'm from a generation where, I demand a kernel of truth, a kernel of authenticity from my reality TV shows. But good God, any of your Love Island and stuff, you're like going, this is just... You're just watching bad actors act, man. And the producers going, say this and then say that, and then we're out, and that's a wrap. And then you get your, 10,000 more Instagram followers, and you get to do nightclub spots for the next 3 years. It's just like, reality TV did this to television. It just dumbed it down,
and yet it's so dumbed down. You would never see Natsuki and Connor freeze to death on an Amazon Basic sleeping bag on an island with such poor preparation. You'd never get those thrills on TV. Never.
Bit of authenticity, please. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I've just got back from North Japan. I did see Ryotaro, who's in a recent episode. Caught up with the man himself. We interviewed a guy who claims to have seen a UFO. That was really kind of interesting. He was like a very humorless man. He must have been in his 70s. Nice guy, but very serious. Very like he didn't really want to be interviewed on it, but we interviewed him anyway. Like he wasn't comfortable with this sort of fame he'd had. But he saw a UFO, and it basically turned this town in North Japan into like a UFO hotspot.
Right.
And like they've got like a UFO museum and some other things. So he went up there and interviewed him, and it was kind of cool. But the wind and the weather in North Japan has been like a joke of recent. I was recently with Charlotte in Sakata, and it was so windy at one point, like I physically couldn't walk, which I've never... Have you ever had that? Like where the wind is like pushing you so much you can't actually like take a step. Have you had that?
I think
Like, it's
a
not
couple
normal.
of years ago, sort of taking my dog out for a walk, where there was like weather warnings where literally don't go outside, it's too windy, and like it was like dodging bits of roof coming off people's roofs and stuff. It was pretty well, and that was like that really, and I don't think Lull the dog necessarily appreciated it either, to be honest. But yeah, it's a. You are kind of like, where's this come from? Because wind is just air. And you're like, what? I feel very, very weird about this situation.
Well, in this case, it was coming from Siberia across the Sea of Japan.
Okay,
but
right.
Japan's had a very there's no. It feels like this year global warming's not a thing because Japan has had like record snowfall. It's over the last sort of 5 years. There's been incrementally less snow with each year, and then this year, Mother Nature has made up for it in spades by basically dumping a record amount across the whole country. Fill us in there, Mr. Donaldson. What's going on in Japan? Tell us about this record snowfall.
Well, you'll need a spade to get through all of this snow. I mean, like they sort of say that the UK is going to get colder or may get colder. We talk about climate change being something that gets warmer incrementally, and there's more water in the sea, and all this stuff. Not more water in the sea, but you know what I mean. There's more water kind of, taking over islands here and there. And people who live on places like Florida, it's going to be a real issue. But it just could be these kind of extreme weather events are, all down to 100% down to climate change. So things can get colder, things can get wetter, things can get windier. It's a weird time, and something needs to be done, but they won't be. Snowmageddon
needs to be done.
Snowmageddon, Chris. Record-breaking snowfall. Snowfall. Have you met Snowfall? He loves the
Paul, it's
snow.
my friend cameraman Paul.
Snowfall loves the snow. Record-breaking snowfall fell on Japan's northern main island of Hokkaido, disrupting traffic, causing airport closures and delaying deliveries on Tuesday. I imagine there were some very solemn sort of CEOs doing statements on social media. Head bowed, we're so sorry we couldn't get your envelopes to you this week. Obihiro, a city in Tokachi Prefecture, saw an astonishing 4 feet of snow in just 12 hours. Now, 4 feet is not a million miles away to how tall I am. And 12 hours is a very short period of time indeed. More snow is on the way as well. Forecast predicting up to another 1 metre in northwestern Japan and 1.6 feet in Hokkaido. TV footage from the area shows residents just shoveling their way out, but officials are urging residents to, oh my God, stay prepared, get yourself some bottles of water, hunker down and just look after yourself, for crying out loud. Sadly, 8 people have died, 54 injured from accidents related to snow removal work across Japan due to severe weather conditions. They talk about that quite a lot, like that kind of, you don't do a lot of activity and then suddenly there's a lot of snow and you find yourself shoveling snow. And that's why they call it heart attack snow, I guess. And people sadly fall foul of some pretty extensive injuries when it comes to shoveling snow.
And it comes off the roof as well. Like, it just slides.
Exactly,
it's insane. I was sleeping in a hotel in Sakuta around the time when the snow was falling, and just through the night you'd hear like constant bang, and like just a whole pile of snow just slides off, hits the ground, and if that catches you, especially if you're elderly, that might be the last thing that happens to you. So yeah, it is scary. It's an ungodly amount of snow that we just simply aren't used to in the UK. Like, the UK has no snow compared to this. It's a joke, and you kind of got to be ready for it. And if you haven't got any experience driving in snow, maybe stay away from cars in Japan during the winter months, especially in Hokkaido. It's fucking terrifying.
I think with because my mum comes from Wales and she would talk about the snow that you used to have. It was up to your hips every single year, and I was like, I don't think that's true, because presumably Japan gets a lot of snow in parts simply because is that just the humidity? It's just always raining, so therefore there's probably a lot of water up there that can freeze. There we go. Meteorologist Donaldson does it again.
Comes across the Sea of Japan and it might not be as cold as places like Russia or Canada, but snow isn't about cold necessarily. Once it's like -5, it's fair game. And it's astonishing. And what's crazy is when I went to Sakuta the other day, I woke up in Tokyo, got on the Shinkansen to Niigata, and for the first hour, the only snow I could see was on Mount Fuji in the distance, right? and then you go through a tunnel, and it's a pretty big tunnel, to be fair, that carves its way through the Ore Mountains. And this tunnel, it must be like 20 kilometres long, and it pops out in a place called Echigo-Izawa, which is one of the snowiest places in Japan. And you come out, and it's literally like another country, because you've gone from fuck all snow to snow buried, houses buried in a pile of snow, and it's very disorientating in such a short space of time to experience such a dramatic shift in climates. And it's because, like, the mountains down the sort of central spine of Japan, they basically take all the snow. The snow hits the mountains, then drops onto the mountains, and it doesn't make it over to Tokyo or Sendai or most of the sort of East Coast. So
like a big caldera. Sapporo's just a big caldera.
Yeah. So Sapporo, I think, isn't too bad. Or maybe it is quite bad. No, it is quite bad. I'm wrong. It's one of the worst. Gets one of the highest snowfalls in the world.
It's unless you're kind of prepared for it. I mean, the coldness is... If you're going from Tokyo, especially if you're like traveling long haul as well. I'm going to Kosovo tomorrow. Because it's what I want to do with my life.
Naturally.
I'm going to Kosovo for the weekend, and I am sick of the cold in London. I'm sick of it, absolutely sick of it. And then I looked at the thing, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to pack a big heavy coat. And if you're not like checking in any luggage, you're sort of like, oh, I'll basically have to just wear all of my clothes and then get there. And if you're going all the way to Japan, if you're traveling to Tokyo in like the sort of January, February months, which is absolutely fine. You can get away with like a jumper in like 17-degree sort of heat down there, and then you just go up to Sapporo and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like you got inches of snow, and you got the snow festival as well. Actually, speaking of that, Chris, we've got some special footage. We've got some special footage you've not seen. Footage? I don't think you've ever. You might have seen a bit of it, but I found an old hard drive that had some Super 8 footage. Are you familiar with sort of Super 8 footage? It's
little the old film cameras,
35mm.
And this is the one you brought with you to Sapporo, and it was like you held it with a handle. It was like a camera on a stick. And it looked like a camera from like the 1970s, and you had film in it, and you pulled this trigger. And it made this really satisfying. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. If you're watching on YouTube,
yeah,
you can
it's actually
see it.
different. It's actually a different Super 8 camera, but it's not 35mm. It's much smaller than that. But very old school analog filming thing. That basically there's no kind of like nuts and bolts to a camera. It literally just you put a film in there and you press a button and a battery just runs a motor across, which exposes the film. And
cool.
and then you spend about 30-40 quid under COVID conditions trying to get it processed in Germany.
Took 6 months, didn't it?
It took a long time, but it was COVID, I suppose. It was... so I've got footage, basically, of us titting around in the Sapporo Snow Festival. Chaki's in there, Natsuki's in there, loads of people are in there. And then we head up to Ishinomaki, and we go around that building that was caught up in the tsunami. So, a lovely little bit of footage that you're going to be seeing at the end of this end of this show if you're watching on YouTube. So enjoy. I've not edited it. I've just put some music on it and then just see how it goes. It's only a couple of minutes long.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That'd be really cool. I remember it took like half a year to get the damn thing processed during COVID, admittedly, as you said. So, there's a beautiful quality to film. I won't deny it. I do like the film look.
And that quality is money. That quality is how expensive it all is.
It's a lot of effort as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
But that's cool. I can't believe it's 5 years ago since the Sapporo Snow Festival, which of course just happened last week. I hope you guys had fun. To those of you that went, there was like a nuisance YouTuber dickhead there who threw. There's a guy called something like DBR6. He threw a snowball at a volunteer at the Sapporo Snow Festival, and it didn't go down very well.
No,
because why would you do that? And he's been kicking up a storm. There's been a few streamers in Japan of recent causing problems, and it's not a good start to the year, but
no
pricks.
It's quite hard to a Japanese audience when you're trying to film something as a responsible YouTuber as yourself, Chris, to try and differentiate yourself from the idiots they may have heard about on the television. So it's not ideal for the sort of thing you do, but yeah, annoying.
I wouldn't throw a snowboard at a random man volunteering at the Sapporo Snow Festival. Never. Natsuki might. But it's just so awkward. This guy throws it, and the volunteer guy, he sort of smiles but then doesn't, and then he's very confused, and the streamer just stands there and sort of harasses him for 20 minutes, and it's like, oh, and of course he's British, fucking British guy, fuck, prick, honestly. But enough of that. Hopefully, I don't want to. Don't want to waste too much time this year calling out streamers who are pricks, because that would be most of my life at this point. But it's a shame they seem to descend upon Japan, where they take advantage of people.
Get them all down.
Vigilante experience. Yeah. We're back in just a moment, guys. Your stories, comments, and questions over in the fax machine.
Wow.
And we're back with the fax machine. What do we got this week from our listeners? Mr. Dawson, fill us in.
Daniel from Bristol. Hi guys, I'm going to study in Japan in Tokyo for at least a year from October. Wow. Do you have any recommendations on what to bring with me from the UK, i.e. clothes, electronics and other essentials? Oh,
I mean, you're the man to answer this one.
A question. I mean, like, would you need step up? I think you need a step up motors, wouldn't you? Step up electronics if you want to run a decent hairdryer. I'd get a step up converter. A decent hairdryer, because all the hairdryers in Japan are rubbish. And you, America, we're looking at you as well. Rubbish. I think you do need that. What else would you take? I suppose
you need this, the cup noodle humidifier, because you can put it on and humidify your room.
People do love even though it's the most humid country on the planet. They do love a humidifier, don't they? I suppose it's good.
Well, you kind of need it.
There's quite a lot of aircon around, I suppose, so you probably need it to just open a window.
The heaters in Japan, they all use fans, and they're very it's horrible. If you're in summer, it's like aircon mode, it's fine. If it's in winter though, you switch on to heater mode, and it just makes the room feel like the Sahara Desert. So you need your cup noodle humidifiers. Just don't fill up with loads of water. Put it on a ramen shop counter and knock it over 85 different plugs, as I did 2 weeks ago. It's a miracle. I was genuinely worried something terrible was going to happen, and luckily the studio survived. I let everything dry out for a fortnight.
I've smashed. I smashed Sarah's little. She puts like little lavender oil in it, and it sort of humidifies next to her bed, and it makes it smell nice. And I smashed it. I smashed it, Chris. But I only smashed the outside sort of porcelain bit that make neon fucking porcelain thing.
Oh, that makes it all right then.
Look all pretty. So I was like, you know what? I'll measure it. I'll 3D print a new one. So I'm going to 3D print a new one. It's going to be rubbish. It's going to be really crap. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes, it absolutely is. We got one here from another guy called Chris. Yeah, hey, good name. Hello, Chris and Pete. I'm going to be in Japan for an extended layover for a total of 48 hours. I want to get the most out of my trip. You should stay longer than 48 hours then. Do you suggest wandering around Tokyo for 2 days, or do you think it'd be worth going down to Osaka for a day? I've been to Tokyo twice and have not really been outside Tokyo other than a quick visit to the Yamazaki distillery. Do not go to Osaka. You can't have everything. Just stick to just Tokyo. Enjoy, because the time will go like that.
If there's a flight leaving from Narita or Haneda at that hour, jump on it. But I mean, it's you are chinning off about 5 hours of your trip there. 5 hours of the 48 just getting there and back on an expensive ticket. So yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Exactly. I'd just go around Tokyo. There's lots of things to do in Tokyo for a day. Go to every station in Tokyo, as I did. Every station on the Yamanote line. And then you could feel like you've seen the entire city. Get up at, 8 o'clock in the morning. You'll finish at 10 p.m. at night. You go to, how many stations was it? Like 25. And you can see the whole city. And don't do that. Actually, don't do that. It was a shit idea.
No, do it. I think do it. I think with if you're going to 40 hours, I mean, presumably you're going to somewhere like Singapore or I don't know, Australia. So why don't you just? Are you going to be tired anyway? Just never sleep. Eat food, drink Monster Energy drink, and just never sleep again.
Why don't you walk across Tokyo in a day, like I did with American Pete? We started in Asakusa around the Sensoji Temple. We finished at Shibuya Crossing, which now has a great bar called Lost Bar you can go to at the end. But like that whole route, I think it took like 12 hours, but you get to hit up all the good spots. So you get Sensoji Temple and Asakusa. You then get to go to the Amiokucho Market in Ueno, Akihabara. After Akihabara, there's fuck all for a very long time, unfortunately. But you get to see Tokyo Station, which is kind of nice. And Yotsuya, Ginza, Roppongi. It's like a good walk.
And the little sort of housing like neighbourhoods as well. That sort of
it's half the fun.
connect these sort of little areas. Just the what's lovely about it is like it doesn't matter whether you're like on an estate or whatever. Certainly, like the middle class houses, like they're so different. Every one is like a newly built, strange sort of experience. There's never two houses the same. So if like you walk down the streets down here, like terraced houses just look the same, or semi-detached houses look the same. But like on your walk around Japan, it's lovely because like everyone's house, everyone just sort of went, I want a slightly different house than next door's, please, and you end up getting ones that look like spaceships. It's brilliant.
That's good, and I think have yourself a little odyssey. Go and do an odyssey, or just go and sit in Caesarea and trial the menu, and then be physically sick. God, I would be cool though, wouldn't it, to land somewhere and have like a whole big old walk across it. And the good thing about Tokyo, it's not like London. You're not going to wander into like a dodgy neighbourhood and things are going to go wrong. Like the whole of Tokyo's safe. So.
Might eat a bad eel. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, God. We've got one last question here from Jordan. He says, hello, Chris and Pete. If you had 15 minutes to sprint down to the nearest Conbini and pick up a dinner, what would be the items you'd select for a slap-up 3-course meal? I would get an energy jelly, cup noodle, and a Family Mart fried chicken. The healthiest of dinners, the healthiest 3-course meal you could possibly have. What about you, Mr. Dawson? You can't top that. It's perfection.
Melon pan. Coolish.
Oh, no.
And what's that stuff you never really sort of see anymore? That kind of hot, soupy stuff that has the vegetables on sticks.
Oden.
In.
Oden. You like that?
Right.
Wow.
I like it. People sort of use the juice in weird ways. I think they put them in their sake. I think they sort of pour. They pour the juice in
this up.
They
it's
pour
new
the
cuisine.
water in the sake. I think Ian told me. And they do something with it. I think they pour it in sake or soju or something to make it a bit salty.
I'm not letting you cook my dinner. Put the sake in it. Put the sloppy sauce. No, Oden is nice. It is nice. You get like a water. It's basically like boiled food, right? So you get like sausages and tofu and noodles and stuff. It is good sometimes, but most of the time
but
it's
just
not.
this kind of like communal kind of. It's weird to sort of go into a 7-Eleven or a Conbini to see this open bath of liquids that your food is sort of boiling in or slow boiling in, and you take it out and it never seems to boil. It's always just on a rolling boil. And when you eat the food, it's always, I guess it's quite starchy, kind of quite thready food that probably isn't going to fall to pieces. But yeah, it's a very, very strange experience.
There you go, though. I think my lunch, my 3-course meal is much better than that. I think I've won this round.
Completely agree.
But I haven't had Oden in a while, actually. I think they've basically started getting rid of it at supermarkets and convenience stores. Or maybe it's just a winter item where it used to be like there all year round. But I'll go and if I see some, I will go and eat some in your honour, Mr. Dawson.
Send us a picture. It's not the sort of thing you'd see. I don't know what the sort of soup is, sort of mirin or something. It's not very strong. If it was in England, it would be gravy. I want to start like an Oden kind of like in whatever
Revolution.
shitty off license down around the corner. I just want a man with a big bowl of gravy that's on a constant boil, soupy gravy, and there'd be pepperonis jammed in there. There'd be sausage rolls, Cornish pasties, and you just sort of pick up a little bit, pick up a little bowl, and serve yourself some. Beautiful! What a great idea.
An entrepreneur gave the UK Yo Sushi in the 90s. Pete Dawson, get ready for Oden Revolution with Pete Dawson. Odon, there we go. That's a different dish though, isn't it? Donburi. You could be Donaldson Donburi.
Yeah.
Donburi.
Yeah.
Pete Donburi. Oh, God. Make it end. In fact, it is going to end. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming in to abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back later in the week, guys, to do it all over again. And for now, have yourself a great few days. And we'll see you right back here on the Abroad Japan podcast. Have a good one.
Enjoy the Super 8. Enjoy the Super 8 footage of Sapporo Snow Festival.
Here we go.
Me and Chris in a big tower titting about and then going to a very solemn wedding venue.
Oh, yes.